to the tutorial on skinning FL Studio. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at how you can customize the graphics in FL Studio to make it more personal. In order to complete this tutorial, you'll need a graphics program. I'll be using Macromedia Fireworks, but you can use any program that can edit bitmap, JPEG, or PNG files. We're going to discuss the process of skinning, and I'll point you in the right direction and give you some tips, but ultimately the skinning process is going to be up to your own creativity, so we're not going to go through each image. But I'll show you an example of what I've done and again give you some tips on how to achieve the best results. One thing I do want to say before we take a look at things is always back up your files before you edit anything. We'll be working with the core graphic files in FL Studio, so always make sure to make a copy of the original files and store them somewhere else before getting started, because if you edit something and mess it up, you won't be able to go back if it's saved as a JPEG or a bitmap. Now the files that we'll be working with, go ahead and pull this up here, will be located in your program files. Go to Image Line, FL Studio, and then Artwork, and then it's going to be the skins folder, the default folder, and that will have all of the graphic files that we can edit. Again, make a copy of this folder and store it someplace before you start working. But let's go ahead and take a look at what I have on the screen. I'll go through and point out a few things that I did. As you can see, this is a lot brighter than the default skin. I spent about a week or so working on all of this. The background is just a modified version of the Mosaic wallpaper that comes with the program. I've gone through and tried to mod just about everything that you can modify. And also, that's one thing to point out, not every graphical aspect of the program can be skinned. You can do a lot, and it takes a bit of creativity to fill as much space as possible, but some things just aren't available. Also, ImageLine does not officially support skinning anymore, so they unfortunately won't be able to help you out if you have any issues. Back to the skin, I've added the note names to the keys in the piano roll, which is good for me because as a drummer, I'm not always the best when it comes to trying to pick out keys right away, so that helps me get there a little bit faster. I've also gone through and modified the volume levels to become these little slider LCD looking kind of things here. I've also changed the background on the displays here and changed the colors here in the sample view, which we'll go over in just a minute, and I'll explain how to do that. And then I've changed around a number of different things here with the mixer and the levels, the meter, and everything. Now there's one thing I do want to point out. This little area up here in the top, let me go ahead and unlock these. This is not something that you can change, and the way to get around that is what I've done here on the shortcut toolbar. And also on the recording toolbar, all I did was basically go in and add some length to it in the graphics program. I added 74 pixels, and what this does is actually it overlaps and will take up the remainder of the image space. So, depending on how you have your toolbar set up here, you'll have to go in and adjust that. But all I did was just go in and add this extra little space right here and right here with this X. And this doesn't really function as anything. I just stuck it in there just because I was pretty tired at that point and I didn't even want to mess with it, so I just threw something in there and then I put my website name up here. So again, it's going to depend on your setup and everything, but that's how you would cover that up. I want to go through and show you how I did this knob thing here. Basically, this is going to be the original file. These are the knobs from left to right. And all I did was went in and cleared that out and drew a horizontal line from the bottom left-hand corner to the top right. And then just went in and filled in black under each one. So that way it created this, gaining meter kind of effect from left to right. And it's kind of cool because the way that the animation is handled in FL Studio for things like knobs is it basically fades one image into the next, so you get a smooth, fluid transition. So that's some stuff to play around with. I tried to go through and do some knobs, but that was kind of difficult. Trying to get the line right all the way around was a bit tough. So if you can do that, more power to you. But I just chose to do this because I couldn't do the knob, and it was also something I thought was kind of neat, something different. So again, I'm not going to go through each file here because it's going to be totally a creative decision on your part, but you get the general idea and you see where the files are. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. You'll see what works and what doesn't work. Now, one more thing I want to point out is there are some things that we can change without editing graphics. In order to change these, you need to make sure that you can view hidden files on your system, and once you've done that, you can go into your FL Studio folder and go to the data folder, and you'll see these NFO files here, and to open these, you can just right click and choose Open with Notepad, and this will give you the little hint that will pop up for that particular object. For instance, again with projects, I'm going to say FLP projects system. Going to open up, and system is actually something that's not going to show up. When we go in, you can see here, and these are going to be hidden all throughout the entire data folder. They're not just in one particular place. Again, you can just go in here and take a look at these. Now, one thing also to point out is you can change the color of these different options in the browser. You see this COL index equals, and then it's got a number. That number is going to be the color, and I'll just give you a brief rundown of the colors if you want to write this down now, or if you want to go back later on and write it down. But number 1 is going to be light gray, number 2 is going to be green, 3 is burgundy, 4 is orange, 5 is pink, 6 is blue, 7 is going to be green again, 8 is going to be blue, 9 is going to be gray, and 10 is also going to be gray. So you can change those values to match what your skin is going to look like. And again, you can change the tip there to change what displays in the hint bar. One last thing that you can do also is to open up the config.txt file. And to find that, that's actually going to be in your artwork folder. We'll go back, go to artwork, and then go to skins. We'll go to default, and you'll have this config.txt file. We go ahead and open that up. Again, we see here skinning is not supported anymore. Really, the only two things that we're going to focus on are the font area and also the scope area. Basically, it gives you information about what each of these options are here. You've got the name of the font right here. The color, the colors are going to be written in what's called Delphi code, and you can get that off the internet. Maybe take a look around for a color converter, but just do a search online and you can find the Delphi codes for colors. And then also you've got the height. Down here with the scope color, this is going to change the color of the sample that shows up in the scope. And again, we're dealing with Delphi codes. The scope color is going to show up what color the actual scope is going to be, and then the sample settings scope color is going to show what color the actual sample is going to show up. Like for instance, you see I have gray and black. And then these other options around here are going to change how everything is set up. I wouldn't mess with that unless you know what you're doing, because you can definitely throw the program out of whack, but it's just going to change how everything is laid out. So those are just some tips for skinning. If you want to go back through the tutorial and write down some of the values that I gave so that you can have them in front of you. And also, there are a lot of skins floating around on the internet that people have made. Most of them are free to download, so take a look around. And again, your creativity is going to be the key. You can modify a little bit or a lot. It's totally up to you. Take your time while editing the image files, and there's going to be a lot of trial and error depending on your setup. But this is a really cool way to personalize the program. I appreciate you checking out this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.